Hello techies, I'm Divya here. On behalf of CyberBrainer, don't you think the world of tech is evolving faster than ever? Now is the perfect time to dive in and build the skills that will take you places. With CyberBrainer, we are putting you in the driver's seat of your own future. We at CyberBrainer don't just teach your interest. We believe that knowledge is power, but it's applied knowledge that truly sets you apart. Whether you're diving into data science, mastering artificial intelligence, or exploring the world of cybersecurity, our courses are designed to give you the skills that matter. So let's jump into the session and make the future yours today. Thank you.
We saw was the web services URL. If I open it in a new page, and for this to be enabled, we need to make sure that our web services are enabled. If we go to advanced, and our web services, if we have this enabled, we can pull the reports in these formats as well. Such as Workday SST, Vistal, Simplex, NST, CSV, Access, Guidata, and JSON. And if I open this in a new tab, copy URL. We'll ask for the authentication. And for that, we did share it with SailPoint as integration user. SailPoint 2 was a username. Copy text. I think the password has reset for this account. It's not working anymore, but basically, based on that, we could open up the file or connect with this report. And this is our report. This is a JSON format for that report. And as you can see that the data is being populated in JSON format, the employee ID, the 0 to 12 months and on. All the information in the report can be pulled up by web services being enabled on the report in these particular formats. If you need to pull it from your query that you may be building anywhere else in your systems. In any other systems, you can connect to Workday XML by doing. And the URL would be like this. All. URL would look something like this. Again, this is from this tenant, which is a preview tenant. It will give the address for the preview services in this tenant. The custom reports E3A2 in the SBI implementation. This is an impl preview tenant. But if it was a production tenant, then this address would be for the production. The rest of the link would remain the same. But if you run the report and get the web URL from the production side, you will of course see the production URL. far, what we have seen the inbound from EIB. We can also pull the data from REST as inbound integration using the web services for the particular functional area like employees, payroll, talent, and budget. We can ingress the data into Workday Excel. For outbound, we can use these functional areas or the sources for our reports or the integrations. Send the data via web services outbound integration and it can be sent to the external system, FTPs, OAP REST services attachment. And this is the one that we saw are considered as REST services importing the data from a custom report within your tenant. Something like this. For the Workday integration architecture, Workday works as a platform, as a service, and allows integration to deploy to and run into the Workday cloud without on-premises middleware. You don't require an additional set of hardware or software or middleware to deploy to the cloud to connect into Workday. There are three types of integrations. One is Cloud Connect. The second is customer integration tools to create integration systems such as Web, Docs, Workday Studio. And if your company has an existing middleware, you can use that as well to send data into Workday or to retrieve data from Workday. And when we talk about Workday's platform, the Workday Cloud, Integration Cloud, we have the set of users. They connect to the Workday application by public web services or the custom APIs. Behind that is the Integration Cloud platform, which contains the monitoring, and then all your applications are built inside your Workday. Like your cloud application, your on-premise application benefit providers, payroll, DAP data input and output in and out of Workday. The Workday integrations work in this way. You either use a public web services within the Workday system. You can use custom report and you can use core connectors. We have already looked at the custom report. We'll look at core connectors next. And either you can use on-premise middleware, the EIB document transformation, or the Workday Studio to combine the bulk. And then the data would be sent to the target. And the target in this case would be the external systems. The core connectors. Workday core connectors are pre-built integration templates that extends Workday's functionality to expand to external systems for human capital management, payroll interface, financial management, and spend management. All integrations are hosted and maintained by Workday and rapid deployment while ensuring external systems only the data you want to expose. You have a lot of control over what data you want to send to your integrations. The Workday connectors provide pre-built connectors for various target systems. One is core connectors. Then there's Workday connectors. End-to-end connectors support a specific name, third-party application or service. When a connector is displayed, the specific business functions between the two systems are configured with no additional coding required. Connectors are pre-built integration that addresses the majority of the integration efforts required to connect to a third party. Let's look at the core connectors for us today. If I look at the available templates, what I do is I can say view integration. In fact, let's quality integration systems. If I want to select an existing template, I can search, say by type. Say integration template. And say let's look for the core connector worker. There are a couple of integrations that are built around the core connector worker. If I want to see the integration details or create a core connector worker, let's go to say integration systems or create, or we can go to the task. Create integration system. Now I can use one of the existing templates. We were looking at core connector worker. And what this integration will do. When I use a template, it will include all the services that I could potentially use for my integration that may be required. Core Connector Worker ESP service, which is the backend service, the data initialization service. This could be used to optimize your integrations. This came out fairly recently, and it has a few advantages over using it and not using it. We'll go into those details. Data initialization log, performance log. Some of them are available, enabled by default, and some of them are optional. Effective stack core connector, launch parameters, integration map, workers, worker, integration configuration, and all these are predefined and enabled. Integration map defined eligibility. Integration maps directory services. This is used for Active Directory, integration, or similar applications. Transaction log services like, do you want to include the worker transaction logs, like the worker changes, job changes, and any kind of changes that a worker may have. And if you want to include that log in your integration, you can do that. And if you enable this feature, sequence generator, if you need it, you can enable it. If you want to have the CSV option to be utilized within your integration for delivery, you can select that. Document retention. If you want to keep your document retained within Workday beyond a specific time, you can enable the service. Do you want to include worker profile photos? Now comes all the sections for the worker, like photos, personal data section, status data, position data, contract data, leave or absence data, worker compensation data, identification data, related persons data. Qualifications and transaction log for worker for these sections. For example, if I need, say, status data, I want to have the integration option document retention. I do not require the CS option and do not require the directory services. And let's say I want to use a data initialization service. In this edition, I want the position data, the contractor workers. I do not need for this integration. Let's say I want to see the compensation data. Identification not required in this. Let's say related persons like siblings, family members, any person related to the worker. Do we need that? For this transaction, let's say I do not require this and I press. And now we have created basically the integration template using the core connector worker, which includes all these integration services. Now, every integration would have a couple of integration attributes, integration maps, and security details for that integration. Now, in the integration attributes, you would be able to define different attributes that are related to integration, such as if you need to use a specific output file name in a specific format or a specific name. If you need to add document tags to it, which can be used in other integration, comment tags between multiple integrations. The version, the output format. Do you want to include inactive workers in full file? The name types, the ISO code, the address type, and you will have all these attributes available to you whether you want to include that data set in your integration system. And how do we configure those attributes? We go to the related actions on the top. Go to integration systems. And configure integration attributes. The entire list of attributes that we saw can be seen here. Say the output file name. I would like to have say CFCCBoo version 24. And fix them up. If I want to restrict this output file name into a specified type of tenant, like do I want to only be available in production or in sandbox or in sales or implementation, you can do the restriction of the type of tenant where this particular attribute will be enabled for. If you leave it blank, it will be available for all your tenant types. Especially when you are testing your integrations, it is recommended that you use your sandbox or implementation, whichever type of platform you're using, to restrict it to that it doesn't go into production in the get-go. If I want to create a document tag that I'm going to use across my integrations, multiple integrations, let's say CFCCU tag 1. And again, I can restrict it to environment as well. Version is required for launch. If you want to define a specific version of the integration template, we can select it. It is generally recommended, unless or otherwise specified, to use an earlier version. We should use the latest version available. If you leave it blank by default, it will default to the latest version. Output format is XML. That is what I need. But if I want another output format, I can define the format either CSV or XML. Otherwise, it will default to XML. Now, when I run the full file depends as to type of integration I'm trying to create. Do I want to create a change snapshot between a given time? Say, for example, I run this integration every Friday and I would like to have a snapshot of changes only between the last run and this Friday. Then I would use the change file. But I would have the option to run a full file as well. Full file would be the complete data set of worker as of that day. Let's say I want to include inactive workers in full file. I select it as yes. Now this comes to the name types. Include name types and output 17 and above. In here, by default it was legal and preferred name selected. If I have any other naming format that I have available on my tenant that I use for my workers, I can say former, formal preferred or other legal names. Otherwise, I can just leave it at default. A preferred name and legal names will be included. The ISO country code type, default is home. Let's say home, I would do select one here and then I would add plus and say work as well. This way, it will include all the addresses for work and home for every employee. If it's available in the tenant, it will include that. Otherwise, by default, it was work address. Address usage type like primary, secondary, and any other options that I would like to specify like home, other business mailing billing. Otherwise, it would by default include the office address and home address. Do I want to include non-primary address? I can do that. Do I want to use in phone number formatting? I could do that. A phone type, say, I would like to have both work and home. Work and home. Into private numbers if I want to. Email type. Let's say work and home. Let's keep the email as work only. Into private email addresses, non-primary addresses, prior values. When you are logging or checking the changes, if any value has changed for the worker, for example, the worker address has changed, a worker's position has changed, or his job profile has changed, or there's any changes that was done on the worker, do you want to include the prior values in those fields? For now, let's not enable this, but in the next round we can enable it and see how it feels like. You can include the prior values, the one value prior that is current. Job classification group, organization types for organizations. Say, if I want to specify that, I would like to include, say, the organization types such as cost center, hierarchy, cost center. Let's say pay group, say supervisory location and location hierarchy. These are all the type of organization types I would like to include in my integration. And I have the option for ID types as to which type of IDs I would like to include. Like, do I want the custom IDs to be included? I would like to have national ID and let's say the government ID, passport, visa and license. Say I don't need it, it will not include it. Do I want to include terminated and transferred workers from restricted results by organization? I can leave it blank. Say audit reports, message audit. If I want to suppress this, use transaction log with full file. Let's say I would like to include this as yes. Position details include multiple positions. I don't want to. I just want to current position, the job type. If I want to specify any specific job type, always include workers with money change in output. If I need to do that, I can turn it multiple output files if I want to suppress warning message and calculated field exceptions. If I want to do that and let's say the rockworm detention policies, 30 days, I would like to say have it for 180 days, 6 months. And press. Where is the error? Oh, I think we have to do it one for each individual. No, sometimes it does error out when you put everything in one column. Say, for example, if I take the national and custom away from here and let's try to press, then it is one of the errors should go away. It is not accepting that. National, government. This hyperlink should take us to the row that we the same entity if it cannot have multiple values that uses same OMS restriction. Row number 6. Just type by. Let's see. Just type on environment. Implementation just. But this error should not come generally. It should not ask the implementation tenant to be mandatory. Mandatory. Let's see where to be. Let's start from the beginning. This hyperlink should take me directly to that attribute, but it's not. Just click on the next one. Let's see. Click on the next one. Row number. Let's look at this number 16 first. Oh, there we go. Here, then it should work in home. And let's see. Remove this. That takes care of one. And row number 24. We have our attributes set up. Now let's look at the integration maps. And what does mapping do? In integration, you have some values that are stored in your Workday metadata and your tenanted data. Such as what is the name type, like gender, marriage and status, and on. There are some fields that are created by Workday. But when you're trying to send data to your client or partner, they would be expecting maybe a different value. For that, you can create the mapping from the connector itself. Let's go to integration system. Let's go to integration maps. Configure integration maps. And let's say this is a simple one. Let's look at the gender. Say we have say male. not declared. Let's say in the external system, they would not be expecting a value tag for gender as male male, but they would be expecting, say, M. And say for female, they would say we would like to see the value as female. And let's say for not declared should be ND. Not putting the full text, not declared female or male. Or for example, they could say for male send us MALE, for female send us FE, and for not declared send us ND. If you need to do the standard mapping of the values that you have in Workday internal values and you want to map them as a different value when the file is being outputted, then this is how we can do that. Let's do it for male only. And let's not do it for female and not declared for now. And we can see in the output file as to how it looks like. Let's do the same for marital status. Let's say United States. Let's say married. And let's say let's select another one as let's say single, says USA. And for married, let's say we want. Or let's keep the married as is. We can see the difference between the two. And then we have option for religion, disability, ethnicity, citizen status, military service status, Hoku region, Hoku type government ID, central ID type, visa ID type and on. You have all the worker tabs on the top for integration attributes. For integration maps, we have a section for worker. And you have a section for foundation where you can put all the organization type business side region and then the job related mapping. Like hire reason, termination reason, worker type, position, time type, period type, job classification, and all the related objects that are available in your job profile. Similarly for talent, if you need to set up the mapping, you can do. Let's say let's press here. Basic structure of our integration is now built. We have put the file name, put the output tags, version, output format. Do we want to include full files? Inactive work is in full file. Now in all the parameters for integration attributes, we set up a couple of integration maps. And with this basic setup, we are actually ready to launch our integration. One more thing we need to do is we need to add an integration system user to our integration system. Let's go back to our report and use the same integration user that we had used before, which was SailPoint. SailPoint 1. Now this integration system user ISU SailPoint 2. It will only populate the data in the integration, what has been assigned as security for this account. Let's say integration launch. Let's run now. And currently we are. Let's get a full file first. And effective date 23/08/13, last successful as of entry. These are not required when we are running the full file. We can take the effective date and as of entry moment. And if I want to keep or search it by specific users, I can add the users here as well. And if I am, let's say, working, or I want this integration to search only for a couple of users, I can do that. Otherwise, I can let it run blank and it will capture all the information of all the users. Currently, as we have selected in our integration map, an attribute that include terminated users in full file, and we have selected the full file, we should expect to see all the terminated users as well. Here we can see the parameters that integration is running on parent event, the integration event, this event as we're looking at itself. Integration system initiated by ran as ICU sale point 2 as of entry moment. Refresh this. And it says completed output. It has 68 files, 69 messages, and the child processes were trained. These are all the audit files. This is your XML output file. This is a diagnostic audit file. With the diagnostic audit, you can see or observe who are included. What's the version? What's the entry date? Who were included in the extract? If I look at one of the users, I can see change detected is no included in extract. Yes, and hazard is no worker. ID message audit file, which message audit file details are in. It says ptn1_zip. It should be ptn_1 and one of the files of 1. And the XML document for worker XST and the XML file that we initiated, which has a document tag 1, available as well. And this is the deliverable file. Let's have a look at this file. We can see it is in XML format. First, you have your worker sync the encoding. The XML version, it's using the schema, and then the header. The header will have all the information for the version, current entry time, file type, whether it's full file, its true or false retention policy, and how many workers were included in the count. Then you would see the worker details. 2155 MB true. And then the worker object is closed. From here till here. Then we have the second worker, then the third worker. But as we can see that no other information is included in the file. It's only the employee, ID, the name, and the eligibility. Let's go back to our integration system. We just saw field attributes visual. We didn't go into we did saw integration attributes. We didn't go to field attributes. Correct. Now I'm going to go to the field attributes to enable what we want to include in each of the area of the system. For example, when we connect code connector worker, we can see all the sections for DIS, which is Data Initialization Service. Which, if you use the service, we'll go into the detail for the S in a later session. But you'll have worker status data, section position data, and compensation data, and everything included in the DIS as well. You might see that there might be some duplications here. And I would suggest that you use one of the two if you're using DIS and use the DIS data. Let's say here, as you can see in the output file, we see here that the employee name, the employee ID, and the eligibility, all these three are tick marked. And this is the data we see in the field attributes. Let's say I want to enable all the information here. I can go ahead and select here. And profile photo, let's say I don't need this. Personal data section. I want legal name and preferred name. They are selected. Let's say I want the gender, date of birth. Let's say nationality. Adversary phone data, email data. Let's say the status. Let's say I would like to include all of this information from status if it's available. Position data. It's primary, like I want a position ID, I want the effective date. I want the position title. I want the worker type. I want the business title as well. Let's say I want the time type schedule, V3 hours FT, E percentage as well. Period type. And I want to include the organization data. Work shift, I'm not interested. Let's say I want a job profile management level. Job family as well. Let's say I want to include the supervisor as well. Who is the supervisor for this worker? Contract data. Let's leave it for now. For the compensation. Say effective date compensation change reason. I would like to see the plan assignment and additional information data. Let's say I'm not interested currently. And in the allowance plans, I want the plan name, I want the amount, start date and end date. And let's relaunch the integration again. I can go to the integration event and let's relaunch it from here. Or I can do a fresh launch of the integration as well. I'll just show you the full file output for now, and then we can continue on this in the next session. Here we can see that it's processing the DAS data initialization service. What is the advantage and the drawback of using DAS services? We'll discuss that in the next session, but this is a new feature by Workday Data Initialization Service, which organizes the data in a much smoother format. All the core connectors when you're using them. Workday does recommend that you start using the Data Initialization Service. You get more in-depth data than D without the DAS. But the disadvantage of DASes is when you have a large population, it takes more time to process using the DAS. But we'll go into the details of what are the advantages of DAS in the next session. But again, it's optional. It's not mandatory to use DAS for now. Let's go to our output. Again, similar format. I'm just going to sort it by the type. We can see the XML file. It's taking a wee bit longer to load because it would have more information on the worker this time around. Again, the header would be similar, like 782 workers before as well. We had 782 workers, but our worker tag was quite small. We had the employee ID, the name, and the summary. But this time around, because we enabled the field attributes, you can see the worker tab starting from here, going all the way to here. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel.